Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshushrutramatho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarod Anirakaranamastu Nirakaranam me astu Tadatmai Niragya Upanishatsu Dharmaste Mai Santu Te Mai Santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yada vai vijanati Atha satyam vadati Na abhijanan satyam vadati Vijanan neva satyam vadati Vijnanam tveva Vijignyasitavyamiti Vijnanam bhagavo vijignyasayite Jada vai manute atha vijanati na amatva vijanati matva eva vijanati matistve vijignyasitavya iti matim bhagavo vijignyasa iti Yada vai shraddhadhati atha manute na ashraddhadhan manute shraddhadhaiva manute shraddhatva vijignyasitavya iti shraddham bhagavo vijignyasa iti. Yada vijanati atha satyam vadati. When one knows, then one speaks truth. Because here knowing and speaking, by speaking is meant becoming. Speaks truth means that speaking is one of the actions when he expresses himself. But then the knower of truth becomes truth. He or she is embodiment of truth, and therefore, whatever the person does, speaking is one action, one way the person expresses himself or herself. But then whatever he or she does is the expression of truth. Yada vai vijanati. In the case of truth, vijana vijnanam, the knowledge also is becoming, because that is the nature of the self, and that is the nature of everything. Therefore, when he knows himself as Satyam, he knows everything as Satyam. And therefore, naturally, it is Satyam that interacts with Satyam. That is how the life is. Therefore, there is nothing but Satyam for this wise person. That's what is meant by Satyam Vadati. He speaks truth. Because he knows the Vyavahara to be Mithya or not truth. Therefore, in his words or expression, that person will not give reality to what is normally considered real. Because what is considered real is what we call Vyavaharika Satta, has some kind of a working reality. But the Jagat is considered real because there is reality there. It's not for no reason that people take the world to be real. Because even though as it appears, it is not real. What appears through the world is real. That's the reason why the world creates in us the idea of reality, because what manifests through the world is real. And if that is what is now real, that is what is perceived, that is what is always kept in mind, when the person is aware of that, then whatever the person does is nothing but the expression of what he knows, what he is, what he sees. This is called abidance in the truth. And then truth will be now later said to be happiness, thank God. Truth is not something which is just a bland, some value, etc. Truth will be explained as happiness, bliss, happiness. But then, vijanati, vijanan eva satyam vadati. It is necessary that Satyam must be known for what it is, that it is the self, that it is everything. What is the Satyam? Vijnana. Then this is called moksha. That's called ativadanam. He transcends everything, meaning that he transcends what people think is real. Vijnanam bhago vijignyaseti. Oh, Venerable Sir, please tell me how Vijnana, how knowledge takes place, how should knowledge, so what should I do for knowledge to take place? So only when knowledge takes place that you speak truth. Please tell me how the knowledge should take place. Yada vai manute asavijanati. When manute mati mananam tarkah mante vishay adarah. So, when we listen to the teacher, when Shravanam takes place, I said yesterday, simultaneously in the mind of the student, Mananam takes place, meaning that the student's mind is engaged in understanding the meaning of what is being said. Because Manta Vishay Adaraha, there is love for knowing the Satyam. So, since one wants to get the knowledge of Satyam, and therefore one exposes oneself to the Shravanam, listening to the teacher. So, teacher is unfolding Satyam, and the disciple, listener, wants to know the truth because he has highest regard for the truth. Mantavya Vishaya Adarha, the love or reverence for the Mantavya Vishaya. the object of mananam. What is the object of Shravanam? What the teacher unfolds is Satyam, and Satyam also is the object of Mananam in the mind of the student. So not only does Mananam meaning, not only does his mind engage in the logical process of reasoning or understanding, but that is done with love or reverence for what he is thinking about. If Mananam is a certain kind of thinking, that thinking takes place with the love for Satyam upon which he is deliberating. Satyam is what the teacher is unfolding, that is Shravanam. Satyam is what the disciple is listening. And Satyam is what he wants to understand. So then when we listen to the teacher, here Sanat Kumar says that understanding of what the teacher says takes place by the process called Mananam, which takes place in the mind of the student. Student listens to what the teacher says, and in the mind, a corresponding process of thinking, deliberation, reflection, analysis takes place, simply to understand what the teacher says. And because he wants to know, because he has reverence, love, value for Satyam that he wants to know. He is a mumukshu. He desires moksha. So he knows that it is the knowledge of Satyam which is the means of moksha. If he has commitment to moksha, then commitment to knowledge, commitment to Satyam, then commitment to knowledge of Satyam, then commitment to Mananam, which is the means of that knowledge. So all along, the adaraha, the love, is involved at every stage. Basically, love for happiness or freedom. Therefore, love for the knowledge of Satyam. Therefore, love for Satyam. Therefore, love for Shravanam, listening to Satyam. Therefore, love for Mananam, reflection upon that. And subsequently, whatever stages are now stated, love at every stage, because the love for Satyam, or love for moksha, reflects in everything that I do subsequently. Mananam matim bhago vijignyaseti. I want to know Mananam, meaning I want to know how Mananam takes place. So what does it take on the part of the student for the process called Mananam, in logical thinking, directed to understanding what the teacher says? Not just thinking or logical thinking, but logical thinking which aims at understanding what the teacher says. So then what should the attitude then? Yada vai shraddhadhati athamanute. The true Mananam or true reflection in the mind of the student takes place when the student has Shraddha. So, logical process can take place. Logic can go anywhere. And clever logicians can establish anything. They can establish there are horns on my head. He can prove that. Or Swami, you are not there. Some kind of logic they will give you and prove that. That being the case, the logic that is directed to understanding the truth, and when will I have love for understanding or love for Mananam? When I have love for Shravanam, when I have love for the one from where the Shravanam is coming. Because I am listening to the teacher. So love for the teacher. And that is also because the love for what the teacher is unfolding, namely the truth. And Shraddha, as we said, is the confidence, the trust. The trust that the teacher knows what the teacher is talking about. Ideally, teacher is what the teacher is talking about. That's a tall order. Tad vijnanasam sa guru vibhave gachet samitpanahi shrotriyam brahmanishtam. All of these are said presuming that the guru is shrotriya brahmanishta. Then what all is said would apply in a very primary sense. And that's how we discuss. But even if that is not so, then also it always benefits the student to have the right attitude. Tulsidas says in one place that worshipping Tulasi, pouring water, lighting a lamp, doesn't do anything to Tulasi. It's a plant. It does something to the one who worships. So what is important for my own benefit is what attitude I have. So yada vai shraddhadhate, when there is shraddha, which also includes reverence and devotion for the scriptures, for Satyam, number one, that yes, truth is, and truth is what the scriptures or Upanishads say it is, by the way. There are many others who say what the truth is. There may be conflicting opinions about what the truth is and what the process of knowing the truth is. There are many processes available. Rishikesh is a little bit difficult place that way. Because you go out in the market and you find all kinds of things. So best is not to go out, meaning not to mingle. Because it's quite likely that if our mind is not still abiding or steady or convinced, if the conviction has not taken place in our own mind about moksha, about Brahman, about Upanishad, about this, that and whatnot, until then it is best that I do not expose myself to anything else because I can be easily influenced. But that is, by the way, that is about Rishikesh. In the olden days, the Gurukulams were all in isolated places, so there was no occasion of mingling with anybody else. No shopping, no sightseeing, no moving about, no distraction. But when there is Shraddha, Shraddha is the implicit trust in the words of teacher and the scriptures. But there is Satyam to begin with that. Asatyam apratishthante jagadahu. There are those who say there is no Satyam. There is no truth anywhere. There is no Dharma. There is no Ishvara. All kinds of opinions are floating around in the world. And there are those who in fact very systematically try to prove that. They can convince you. You try to convince somebody and they convince you, sometimes that's what happens. So, Satyam is, because Upanishad says that Satyam is limitless, because Upanishad says it is myself, because Upanishad says. And that the knowledge of Satyam takes place when I deliberate upon Satyam called by Vichara, and that Vichara is in the form of Shravanam or listening to a teacher who is unfolding what this Upanishad says. And all this process takes place with a certain attitude of my mind called Shraddha. As we said yesterday, that Shraddha enables me not to question what I am told, Because there may be a tendency to justify what my present understanding is and judge what I am told based on what I understand now. Shraddha means I judge what I understand now based on what I am told because I have confidence in Upanishad, in the teacher. So this Shraddha enables me to scrutinize my own present opinions, conclusions, which are all Brahma or delusions. And that is how Shraddha enables me to let go my false notions one by one by one. That is the shedding of ignorance. Because ignorance manifests in our life as these false notions. Ignorance does not manifest simply as not knowing something. Ignorance is not that I do not know myself. I do not know Bhagavan. I do not know world. I know them and I know them wrongly. Thus ignorance manifests in our life as wrong knowledge, wrong conclusions, wrong perceptions. And that's what I'm made up of right now. Who am I? Nothing but my conclusions. And then when I face this unfoldment of the Upanishad, depends on what my attitude is. If I'm quite proud of my understanding of everything, then I may question what they say. Thus, I can remain intact and dismiss everything else. That is called pride. All Shraddha makes me humble and enables me to question my own conclusions. Then the teacher will tell us how my conclusions involve fallacy, logical fallacy. That I am so and so, it is not based on any logic. Some kind of logic may be there, that the world is such and that. There is no proper logic involved. This is all taken for granted. Therefore, these conclusions were simply taken for granted when they are subjected to scrutiny as to what is the basis of this conclusion. I realize that there is no logical basis. And if my intellect discovers that there is no logical basis in believing something, it is willing to drop because the buddhi likes satyam and buddhi likes also logical thinking, understanding, mananam. So buddhi finds that this doesn't make sense or it makes wrong sense, then buddhi has no difficulty in dropping, letting go. You let go of ignorance in the form of these false notions. So the Shraddha becomes the means of right thinking, because logical thinking can be any way. But Shraddha enables me to think in a manner which questions my conclusions and which enables me to drop the conclusions if they are wrong. And that's how ignorance is shared, and that's how knowledge takes place, vijanade. Ashraddhadhan namanute. If Shraddha is not there, the mananam as a means of knowledge doesn't take place. So mananam as means of vijnanam, some mananam will take place. But that mananam without Shraddha will not generate vijnana or knowledge. Shraddham bhagavo vijignasaiti. He Bhagavah, whenever sir, Shraddham vijignase, I want to know how Shraddha takes place, how to attain Shraddha. Because none of these things can be willed. Yes, Swamiji, I love you. Wait, you may say that. I hope that is so. But that love is not something that you can will. Shraddha also you cannot will. Knowledge you cannot will, knowledge has to take place. Mananam you cannot will, has to take place. Shraddha has to take place. And when do these things take place? When we make the right effort. It's all yatna sadhya. When we make the right effort, then it takes place. So, sir, what should I do for Shraddha to arise in my mind? That is what is meant by Shraddham Bhagavo Vijijnaseti. He Bhagavaha Shraddham Vijijnase. I desire to know Shraddha. Meaning, I desire to know how to discover Shraddha. I desire to know how Shraddha should take place in my mind. Then Mananam would be proper. And then that Mananam will lead to Vijnanam. And so, we are on the page 8, passage 25. यदा वै निस्तिष्ठति अथ श्रद्धाते न अनिस्तिष्ठन् श्रद्धाते निस्तिष्ठन्नेव श्रद्धाते निष्ठात्वेव विजिज्ञासितव्या इति निष्ठां भगवो विजिज्ञास इति. Nistishtati. Ni, the prefix, and stha, the verbal root. Stha becomes tishtati. Nistha, nistishtati. So, the word nishtha, see, nistishtati is from the same as nishtha. So, nitram sthiti nishtha. And that is what meant by nistishtati. Here the meaning of nistishtati is when he serves devotedly. So yada vai nistishtati, when one serves devotedly. So how to acquire this? Is very wonderful. This is, you find Viveka Vairagya, this and you all rattle out. But how all these processes take place? Each step is addressed here. And a very beautiful means is given at every stage. Nistishtati, Nishtha, Guru Sushushadi. Bhashyakara says, what is Nishtha? So, Nischayena Tishtati, Nistishtati. Meaning when one has Nishtha. What is meant by Nishtha? Guru Sushushadi, Guru Sushrusha, etc. Sushrusha has two meanings. One is the Rudhi Artha. Sushrusha, Rudhi Artha is Seva. So Sushrusha we understand by the word Sushrusha as Seva. And the derivative meaning is Shrotumicha is the desire to listen or Shravanam. So therefore, in the word Sushrusha, the Seva as well as Shravanam, both of them are intended here. Shravana Sangrahitam. Why? Meaning that not only you want to serve the teacher, but you also want to, because this Mananam was mentioned earlier. But Mananam presupposes Shravanam. So that Shravana is mentioned or is intended here by the word Nishtha. And then Shravanam should take place with Shraddha, and then with Shraddha the Mananam should take place, and then the Vijnanam takes place. Tat Paratvam Brahma Vijnanaya, steadfastness in Shushrusha, in Seva and Shravanam both. But let us talk of Seva. So here the Guru Seva is present as a means of Shraddha, discovering Shraddha. We imagine in those days that a Shishya is an Antevasi. He lives with the Guru and serves the Guru. Depends on how the Guru is. Guru is Guru, but every Guru is, some Gurus are very lenient, some Gurus are very strict, some Gurus are all demanding. They have a way of, this is what they have discovered as a way of development of the student, put it this way. So Bada Swami would say, because he's living in Uttarakashi on there. So the disciples should wake up before the Guru wakes up. Go all the way down, fill the pot of water and come up and keep it warm and keep ready. How many times is for us to go down to fetch water? Then go down to fetch bhiksha. And then all that, it's a tough job. And sometimes you wonder what is the old man up to. Someone like Tapovan Maharaj was very strict. And so if the devotees would bring sweets, he will just put it up there. This fellow doesn't get it. When you come for a lesson, what did we just say yesterday? He used to repeat that as well, go home, come back tomorrow. So these old-time gurus were tough. I shouldn't use the words, but anyway, so not these modern days gurus who are extremely lenient. Oh, you did not remember, beta, this is what it is. Oh, you didn't have time. But this guru business is a tough job, by the way. Particularly when the disciple is devotedly serving you. And the disciple, you see that the disciple trusts you. To be trusted is a great privilege. But it's a great responsibility because you must become trustworthy. And trust is what is the primary core of any relationship. Mutual trust. But in this instance, disciples trust in the Guru. And therefore it becomes responsible to Guru to become trustworthy, which is much more difficult than trusting. Because you put trust, there is naturally an expectation of what the other person should, how they should conduct themselves, how they should be, how they should conduct themselves, how they should be walk, how they should be dressed, and then they are watching everything. Oh, the light is on. Everything is watched. Light is on. What's the time? Swami, you woke up late this morning. Every movement is watched. You are under scrutiny. When you go to the public places that say that, now what is it? What is it? The closed circuit camera is on. So you are under these observation, supervision of this. That's what it is. Like closed circuit television. You get all the limelight because the light is on you and everybody is watching. But then, when everybody is watching you, then you have to be watchable also, isn't it? Worthy of being watched. Meaning that, of course, this is on the part of Guru, which is not the point here, but since I am talking to you, therefore, that in order for the student or disciple to cultivate or be devoted, serving devotedly, it may start with devoted serving, but then there is always an expectation naturally on the part of disciple also that in the opinion of a disciple, Guru is such and such, such and such. And that becomes a responsibility of Guru also to try to fulfill that. It's a tough job. To fill up the word Guru, Swamiji used to say, is very difficult. Anyway, but here we are not talking about the Guru. Guru is supposedly what the Guru is supposed to be. But having gone through that business myself, I know how demanding that is. And of course, it is great. If you take up that challenge, it is good for you because you have to grow. The Guru has to grow along with the Shishya. The parents should go along with the child because the child grows, the demands of the child from the parents also grow. Unless the parent also grow, which sometimes does not happen, unfortunately, then there is a phase difference and slowly they separate. So here also the Guru must grow. To share with you something, when I first went to Saraswatiji, Swami says, we have to grow. Swami tells me, he uses the pronoun we, you have to grow. Then I realized that you have to. And when you are in American community and, although I had lived in the United States, but in a different setup. When I went back, it was a different setup. And the community was different, people I was relating to were different. And they had spent 3 years or so with Puja Swamiji. And then you go there. Anyway, it's a very interesting situation. But then we have to recognize that there is somebody who trusts you. Then we have to always strive to become trustworthy. But on the part of the disciple, Yadava in this Tishtati, when the disciple devotedly serves the Guru, learns from the Guru, because there is proximity of the Guru. In serving, there is proximity of the Guru, and therefore there is constantly an opportunity to learn from how he walks and how he talks and how he sits and how he conducts, how he behaves. Naturally, the disciple is constantly watching and learning how I should do. So this is how this seva, which involves close proximity to the Guru, which naturally involves observation of the Guru, also results into learning constantly from the Guru. Particularly when the disciple has devotion for the Guru, then Guru becomes a role model, and you also want to shape yourself according to that role model. That is what is meant by nistishtari. How that devoted service, and then Shravan is included. Then you want to listen also to Guru, satsang takes place, Guru is talking, you ask questions, all that also goes on. Satsang also goes on, in a way Shravan also goes on. There may be formal classes also, there may be informal talks also. And usually it was a one-to-one situation those days, not like one Guru and 55 disciples, etc. So I want to serve the Guru, how can I serve? This day there is a problem, how to serve. Because how many people can massage legs, at a time? Two disciples vying with each other. No, he says, okay, this is my left leg and you take right leg. And each one is massaging and the Guru turns, hey, your leg has come on mine. He gives one punch, to the right leg because it came on the left leg. That kind of stuff. So all of these may be literally difficult under the present situations. Nevertheless, what is meant is that the Shishya or the disciple is constantly learning, recognizing how to grow in my emotional maturity. that is by serving the Guru, and intellectual maturity by listening to the Guru. So by Shravanam, our ideas, false ideas are dropped, ideas become clear, knowledge becomes clear, the knowledge is gained, that is the intellectual maturity, which must be also be in accompaniment with the emotional maturity. And so being with the Guru and observing also gives us emotional maturity. How in a different situation the Guru behaves, or talks, walks, how does he treat. Thus, if Shushrusha is meant both the Seva with devotion and Shravanam, then the overall growth of the disciple takes place by Shravanam, the intellectual growth, and by Seva, the emotional growth. That's how slowly Shraddha comes. Because you start believing what the Guru believes in. You want to know what the Guru knows? You start doing what Guru does. You want to become like Guru. And so you believe in what the Guru believes. And that's how, from this Nishtha, which is explained as Shushrusha, as Seva, as well as Shravanam, this is for the disciple to grow. And thus, in course of time, the disciple discovers Shraddha. Yada vai nistishtati atam shraddhati. This devoted Seva brings about the Shraddha. Because Shraddha comes when you find confirmation that yes, this is Satyam eva Jayat, and I see that happening. I see Ahimsa, I see these things, the manifestation of these values. And that's how I know I understand what the values are, what it is to be compassionate, what it is to be kind, what it is to be caring, what it is to be wise, etc., etc. That's how I imbibe those values also. Because I find confirmation of those things. And that's how this emotional growth and intellectual growth that takes place in a student, as a result of this devoted service and listening, the Shraddha arises in the authenticity of the scriptures and of the teacher. And then Shravanam brings about the right kind of mananam. So nistishtati ata shraddhati. Nishthatva vijignyasitavyayati. Hey Narada, this nishtha also doesn't take place. It has you to do something for nishtha to happen. Each one is prayatna yatna sadhya. It is not by will that we can accomplish a given thing, it is by the right effort, and what that effort is what Sanat Kumara tells us. So the effort that is required for Shraddha to take place is Nishtha, which means Shushrusadi. Then how does that Nishtha take place? What should I do in order for Nishtha to take place, for Seva to take place, for Shravanam to take place? Or what makes that Seva effective also? So then the next verse is Yada vai karoti asa nistishtati na akrutva nistishtati krutva eva nistishtati krutistveva vijignyasatavya iti krutim bhago vijignyasa iti. Vijignasa iti. Is it Vijignasa or Vijignasa? What is it? Hmm? It says Vijignyasa here. Hmm? So is it a printing mistake? What Sandhi is it? Lopah Shakalyasya. And before that? Echoyavayavaha. And then Lopah Shakalyasya. Very good, very good. So Vijignyasa becomes Vijignyasa Ya. And then Ya is dropped. Vijignyasa. Swami is sitting here, so I should be careful in what I am saying, So so yada karoti asa nistishtati. Now this nishtha happens, the devoted service happens when you do something. Meaning the service involves doing. Not a mental act or something, it is a physical action. So it is not just doing. Bhashyakara says, kritihi indriya sanyamaha chitta ekagrata karanam cha. So just any doing is not called kruti here. The kruti that results into nishtha. That kruti means karma. It's not just karma, but the karma that results into nishtha. So how do you perform that seva? How do you perform that karma? Bhashyakara says, indriya sanyamaha chitta ekagrata karanam cha. So that action performed with indriya sanyama. So serving requires indriya sanyama. A control over one's sense organs, meaning the discipline is required. Seva requires discipline. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparaha sanyatendriya. Indriya sanyama. Meaning the control over the sense organs, control over the organs of perception, control over organs of action. You're serving not looking here and there. Look where you should look. And Guru has a lot of things there, and so there are some fruits here and the nuts here. Indriya Sanyama. That my tongue is watering looking at those things. What are the boundaries everywhere? Sanyam means following the boundaries and being, so also chitta ekagra karanam cha. The alertness of the mind and discipline at the level of the body and sense organs. Not just discipline but also alertness. Chitta ekagra karanam. That I must be alert is what is required. Akhandanji was giving one example. That there is a sabha of the Mahatmas, very senior Mahatmas are sitting there on the this kind of weather, and so those days there's this fanning, you have to pull the string. That's how the fan. So one sadhu says, I want to serve. Okay. Goes off. Somebody says, get lost here, right? This is not the way to serve. You have to be alert, you have to be awake. So sometimes it goes off. Meaning that we may not be alert. And what exactly is required? If you observe the Guru, then what the needs are, and those should be fulfilled properly. Present day Gurus may not say anything, may not mind, but then olden day Gurus, not this way. And that is right also. We should be told. Then that's the only way we will learn. Otherwise we don't even know that we are making a mistake because Guru is too lenient. Sab kuch chalta hai. You can't learn anything. Meaning that you do not learn what discipline is. You do not know exactly what is right way of doing it. If ye bhi theek hai, chalta hai, everything is all right for the Guru, but this disciple is very attentive about the needs of the Guru and provides exactly, if you watch this desk here, you see variety of things here in different places in a given place. What is required, when Swamiji may require for a class or lecture or illustration. And so from the experience it is known that sometimes Swamiji requires Sutre Mani Ganaeva, that illustration may be required. Sometimes the bengal and the gold, sometimes the pot and the clay, sometimes the real bunch of grapes and a mithya bunch of grapes, or mithya. Sometimes the crystal and the different colors and how the illustration. So different colors also should be there, not just one color. And I will now request them to put a label as to what this, because I don't know what this color is. I may call it blue. It's not blue, Swamiji. I say this is green. This is not green. All right. So they do that because otherwise Swami is ridiculed, when he says a wrong thing in front of people, that's not right. So that also they'll do. So this requires observation as to what is required, when is required, how it is required, and what should be done very silently. And sometimes, today this was not there, so next time it will be there. And that's how the student also keeps on learning. More observant you are about the needs of the Guru, more then you become also disciplined, and your seva also becomes more focused. So chitta ekagra karana, focus also is required. Not only doing things, but doing it consistently. That today you come at 5 o'clock in the morning, then next day 6:30, that doesn't work. Because then somebody depends upon you and therefore you must be consistent. So, alertness is required, discipline is required, consistency is required. And you're also, but this is what is meant, this is what is required for the Kruti. So Kruti is not merely karma. But here Kruti means karma, which is done with discipline, where the Indriya Nigraha is involved. Chitta Ekagra Karanam, Indriya Sanyama is there. Chitta Ekagra Karanam, the concentration of mind, focus of the mind, alertness of the mind. That is what seva requires. And therefore, if you are committed to doing seva, you also grow in all these faculties. Nothing is without reward. When a thing is done properly, there is reward. Well, the one who you are serving may be rewarded by you, the one who serves also gets rewarded. Oh, sorry, last time I forgot that. Okay, I remember it now. Last time I did not pay attention, I'll pay attention. And that is how the disciple grows. By Kruti, by that seva performed with the Indriya in Sanyama and Chitta Ekagrata. So that seva or Kruti done this way is called Kruti here. The word Kruti here means the Indriya Sanyama, Chitta Ekagrata Karanam. That is what is meant by Kruti. But seva involves the karma anyway. So what is Kruti? So Bhashyakara says Kruti means Indriya Sanyama, Chitta Ekagrata. So when that seva is performed with Indriya Sanyama and Chitta Ekagrata, and of course with devotion. Otherwise he can take it, It's right there, Swamiji. So sometimes, everything I don't have to do. It's right there. Take it. You should have taken it. No. Give them the freedom, It's a habit. of being given and not taking. One day when I went for Bhiksha in the US, and they generally serve the food, and everybody helps themselves at the table. Swamiji, help yourself. Sir, I am not used to helping myself. I am used to being helper. Okay. Otherwise, that hostess herself will start eating, That is a custom there. That's how they do. Not here. The hostess will serve. She will wait and serve. And then eat at that, if she does. And therefore, we have to know what it is. Somewhere I went for Bhiksha and then I put things in the sambar. Then oh Swami, you don't eat garlic and onion? We did not know. What do you mean you did not know? So when you invite somebody for Bhiksha and I did not know, I didn't say that. I said, no, I don't mind. Sambar doesn't suit me anyway. But, so this is what alertness calls for. Previous inquiries, what does Swami like and what is today, these days his stomach is like that, next time, then you can't take it because next time his head may be something like that, third time something else may be something like that. Every time diet changes. So every time I go to US the diet is different, and this lady prepared all these sweets and I don't eat sweets. So next time when she did not eat, I eat sweets, And so in serving, all of this is called for. So that is called kruti here. Not just karma or the seva, but in what manner the seva should be done. Then the real seva will take place. So seva nishtha has to take place. When does nishtha take place? When this kruti is there. What is kruti? Indriya samyama, chitta ekagrata karanam. Discipline is there, concentration is there, focus is there, consistency is there. Oh, I forgot today, Swami. Well, that you may forget, but that you have to be consistent. The sevak cannot afford to forget, cannot afford to be late, cannot afford this, that, and whatnot. It's a big deal. But that is what helps the person grow. Otherwise, if you do what you are accustomed to do, you remain what you are. If you do what you are expected to do, that's how you grow. So kruti brings about then nishtha, nishtha brings about shraddha, shraddha brings about maranam, that brings about vijnana, that brings about satyavadanam. So this is how the process is described. Steps one after the other will continue. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo